Welcome to the Do It All Dad Year podcast. Dad-friendly entertainment for you and me. Controlling your kids with comedy can make our kids great again. I'm your host, Michael Kornbluth, and this is episode 16. What the hell is attachment parenting, dude? Attachment parenting is turning your bed into a 24/7 open milk bar for the foreseeable future. On a deeper psychological level, attachment parenting is the equivalent of planting seeds of self-esteem on steroids. So let's backtrack here for a second. So in the past, we've had different types of parenting, right? For baby boomers, they didn't really have much of a philosophy. If the extent of their parenting philosophy was the crying it out philosophy, right? All of our parents that grew up in Brooklyn and the Bronx, their only reason to move to the suburbs, it wasn't for the better schools or the fact that their children wouldn't get the shit kicked out of them. That wasn't the reason. The only reason why, when our parents didn't have a pot to piss in, the only reason why they left from Queens, the Bronx, and Brooklyn, the only reason why they started looking for homes in suburbia, whether it be Long Island, New Jersey, or Westchester County, New York, the only reason why is just so their children had an extra room upstairs to cry it out. Because as any parent can testify to, it's this irrefutable fact. When your kid has a room to cry it out upstairs, what this means is that the cries of despair, when you have a room upstairs, are always easier to bear. I remember my father, this is a source of pride for him. An incredible mark of distinction. He likes to say, son, I remember when you used to cry endlessly and you had this crib that had tooth marks, gnaw marks up and down the line all over your crib. And when my father brings up the story, because he repeats himself 24/7, I said, Dad, did it ever occur to you that at the time I was starving to death? And that's why I tried to notch through my freaking crib? So the creators of the attachment parenting movement are from Denmark. Denmark. What's unique about Denmark? Denmark, according to all these polls, is the happiest place on the planet. And why is that? They relate it to having a happy childhood, a happy upbringing. Now, I understand the fact that, and I'm not complaining here, but like right now, my daughter is in first grade, and her memory is amazing. And I have a very hard time trying to recall all of these like standout memories from like first grade through sixth grade. I mean, I can literally like count on my fingers. Now, does that mean that I just had a depressing childhood and I just tried to block them out altogether? Because I remember spending way more time with my blocks than my G.I. Joe figures. And I did have some friends. I wasn't this like boy in a bubble. So my point being, if I grew up in Denmark, would I have these memories of, basically hanging out with, beautiful blonde au pairs? Au pairs. I wouldn't have an au pair. I do remember this. My friend Koopy, he had these, actually, the father mixed it up. He owned his own law firm. But he had these two blonde au pairs. They were both from Sweden. They could have been sisters, I have no idea. But they were smoking hot. So obviously my childhood wasn't that depressing. Because I have distinct memories of these two smoking hot au pairs. Primo jerk-off material. I remember them literally escorting my friend Koopy and I to like Stand By Me. And to the movie Big. Ernest Goes to Jail. During the golden age of 90s comedies. Secret of My Success. Michael Keaton was banging out films. Johnny Dangerously. Michael J. Fox was on fire. We weren't completely depressed on his behalf because we didn't know about the Parkinson's just yet. It's a beautiful time. Family Ties was fantastic. Michael J. Fox was never funnier. And what I noticed, actually, if you watch, always trust your instincts, folks. Make sure you impart that message to your children. Because I always remember Back to the Future 2 feeling weird, forgettable. I don't recall any standout moments. And my wife says, oh, well, I actually like the second one better. And I'm thinking, but babe, you grew up in Australia in like the hickey hinterland and only grew up with like 2 television stations. So not really going to trust your informed opinion on this one. No offense. So anyway, but I do respect my wife's opinion on many things to a large degree. And my kids love the first Back to the Future, so we watched the second. And it sucked out loud. And the reason why I'm convinced is, well, 2 reasons. Number 1, Michael J. Fox just looks weird because he's lost all boyish, good-looking charm. And number 2, comedic timing, way off. And 2, Back to the Future 2 was, from what I recall, very far removed from his days at Family Ties. So it just goes to show you, folks, that you got to keep at it whatever you do. Because if you don't use it, you lose it. Truer words have never been spoken. So, back to attachment parenting. So like I said, this is my point about attachment parenting, folks, okay? So, attachment parenting typically pertains to families where the kids are raised on pure booby, okay? Now, obviously, there are tremendous benefits to this. Number 1, their complexions are glistening compared to these formula babies. All you got to do is go to any daycare center, and the proof is right in front of you. The yucky, disgusting, decrepit complexion of the formula babies is right there, front and center. These kids are always sickly. I mean, these kids that are formula babies, and I'm not being outrageous for the sake of it. It truly looks like these formula babies literally just took a load to the face from an Elmer's glue gun. Okay? And never really, like, dried. It did dry. And basically, like, their face, it's all wrinkled up. And it looks like they just took a load to the face with an Elmer's glue gun. I can't think of a better way to describe it. And my kids, on the other hand, never an issue. Beautiful complexions. Now, obviously, if they decide to, get crazy and for some reason develop a infatuation with Lyle Alzado during Guido Appreciation Month and decide to triple down on doing massive steroid abuse, then not really going to guarantee the pristine complexions anymore. However, I've been very fortunate. Obviously, I'm going to be very vain here right now. I don't have kids with yucky complexions. All my kids weren't born boldies either. Now, as far as I'm concerned, boldy, alien-looking babies aren't that adorable to begin with. My last son, Samuel, he was born full set of hair, but it wasn't just that. He had, like, the mohawk. It looked like a moosed up mohawk but like without a mohawk. It was like the mohawk spike that emerged in the middle. So right out of the womb, I nicknamed my son Rockstar Ready. So this kid was instantly adorable from the spot. And you look at Samuel's head with this Rockstar Ready do compared to these baldy alien babies that look completely gross, that look like, they look like mommy had dropped their alien ball babies on an anvil one too many times at some Civil War reenactment society based here in the East Coast. So, which obviously aren't as prevalent as they are down south, but that's okay. I understand everyone has their interests and hobbies. So, attachment parenting. So the boobie, okay? So my wife made the decision to breastfeed all of our three children, right? So that's really like the foundation behind attachment parenting. And I'm going to defend attachment parenting right now, okay? Because the positives overweigh the negatives. What's a negative? Like I said, your bed does turn into a 24/7 open milk bar. Because when you're breastfeeding the kids, you're leaving open the possibility, even when they do have their own room, that you leave open the possibility that whenever they want booby, they could hop in the bed for all time's sake. And so that option is always on the table. However, it can get tiring 3 kids later, when this has been your existence for the past 6 years, and you've exchanged your scrambling for a new puss 20s for your snuggling 40s. I know that sounds like an awful contrast, but I'm telling you right now, I will take my snuggling 40s over my scrambling for new puss 20s in LA any day of the week. Far less nerve-wracking. And I also grew up during post-AIDS, where last time I checked, only the great Magic Johnson was able to make HIV disappear. So, like I said, it has its drawbacks. When you raise kids in an attachment parenting household. For example, last week, the baby is in the crib. One of the 2 kids are in the bunk beds in their room next door. Baby starts crying. Okay, no big deal. Wife doesn't move. Baby cries again. Wife is motionless. And I say, hey babe, do you mind? And she says, but if I get up now, Samuel will be on my boob all night long. And I said, your boob has more important places to be. Just be happy that your torn up nips are getting any attention at all. For the past 6 years, our bed has turned into a 24/7 open milk bar. But you don't hear me bitching about it. So again, attachment parenting has its drawbacks. My bed is no longer a bouncy castle. However, let's be honest, folks. Before we eventually marry, and before we fall in love, after we drop the L-bomb, after our significant others do, the sweaty sex period has a very short shelf life. The exceptions to this rule would be if you're fortunate enough to make $1 billion and you're able to get Elle, the body McPherson, to fall in love with you or to marry you. And you could bang her standing up or on a step stool the rest of your life, and you have 0.0 problem getting up for the occasion. Come rain or shine. Love that nickname. Elle, the body McPherson. So, yeah, the sweaty sex period, folks, right? This happens to all of us men before we get married and become more than reluctant sluts in straitjackets. This is my phrasing that you will never hear on Michael Savage because he wishes he was this fun. Not in a million years. You will not hear, I'm old and Jewish and I have all these degrees and I may talk radio what it is. Donald Trump is president. All because I said that we need to maintain our cultures and borders and blah, blah, blah. Hang it up. You won't have the #1 downloaded podcast for long. Great. You're a well-read Jew. Join the freaking club. You're not as punchy as you think. Michael Savage. I gotta be enlightened. I'm listening to the greatest hits of Michael Savage today. Oh, he read some books on how Native American Indians, how they raised their kids, how they would let them cry it out outside the teepee. Oh, really deep. Oh, this is his comment, that eventually they cry it out so they have more, so there's No more tears, as Ozzy would sing, no more tears. Real deep and profound, Dr. Savage. Now, have I let my Samuel, my beautiful, well-adjusted, 1,000% son Samuel, 1,000% happy son Samuel, have I let him cry it out in his crib? Yes, I have. Yes, I have. However, that's only when I've assessed that he is completely exhausted and that it's just a matter of time. Now, also, I'm on the flip side of that, is that, guys, you will not have this opportunity to have your kids look at you so adoringly for so long. You will not have this opportunity again throughout the rest of your life to plant self-esteem, seeds of self-esteem on steroids. Okay? Eventually, your children will outgrow the need to completely latch on to pure boob in your bed that's morphed into that 24/7 open milk bar. They will outgrow that. They don't want that forever. Even the kid from The Last Emperor, he outgrew it. So, just relish that time. I call my daughter, who's only 7, 8'2" for a reason now. Her legs go on for miles and miles. It's insanity. At 7, I shouldn't be uncomfortable with her prancing around naked in her bedroom. But I do, to the point where I say, Matilda, put some undies on already. So the Chinese underworld has far less to see. They grow up fast. It's a cliche, but it's so true. I love the way my children look at me right now. I like to believe that a large part of that is because of my involved hands-on role. It's because I've embraced the attachment parenting methodology. And also, too, Babe Ruth, right? Foster child. Why was he great with children? Because he was trying to overcompensate and he had developed incredible empathy for kids that are completely abandoned and neglected and are forced to fend on their own, who never really had any sort of parenting figure to give a shit, to make them feel special, make them feel unique, help give them confidence in expressing themselves. None of my children they have 0.0 problem expressing themselves. They have no problem mixing up with other kids. They are not arrogant, condescending know-it-alls. If they get a little wise ass with me, I will tell them. I shoot that down immediately. My daughter, she has this girl, Brooke, in her school that she can't stand. So, and basically Brooke is like that typical know-it-all, but she exudes that sort of level of condescension that you would expect from someone at least like 4 grades hotter than she actually is. Now, I'm not trying to be like Woody Allen and assess the actual, beauty of first graders. That's not the point I'm trying to make here. But my point here, folks, is that whenever my daughter acts like that condescending, arrogant, know-it-all, and we all have that person in our lives, I flat out call her Brooke. Or whatever, and she gets it, and then she goes, Daddy, call me Brooke one more time, I'm going to punch you in the face. Alright? Now, Michael Savage, his attitude is, well, if you don't let your kid cry it out, if you don't subscribe to that old school theory, then your kids are going to turn into complete pussies and snowflakes, millennial musketeers, blah, blah, blah. Yeah, we get it. First off, Savage, you got one kid. I'm really glad that he was able to latch on to the energy drink market before it became completely saturated. I have no idea if he came up with this energy drink pre-Red Bull or post. I don't really care. But I'm not really gonna judge you on being the expert on parenting when you only had one. And I'm gonna think that due to the fact that your son grew up in Marin County next to freaking Jerry Garcia, that I would assume he had access to some VC investors who he had no problem getting into a room with. Hey, I got an energy drink. It's the big thing. Not everyone likes coffee. How much money you need? 7 million? Sold! I like your father's views. He reminds me of my Jewish grandfather from the Bronx. Typical curmudgeon. Likes to think that his word is holier than thou. And he's basically the personification of baby boomer arrogance times infinity. But Michael Savage is such an original because he tried to save the rainforest and takes vitamins and herbs. Like he's the first to do that. Like Woody Allen and Albert Brooks weren't talking about that, like in their films in the 70s. But I digress. So, like I was saying, toughness, all right? Toughness is also inherent, people. My son's got stitches twice, okay? Archo USA. First time, great story. Goes to ER. We had to wait forever. And then finally, 2 hours later, doc's like, listen, I give him anesthesia or I give him the stitches right now. We're like, give him the stitches right now. He did it. Doc says, wow, your kid is very tough. I don't know how he handled it. I said, Doc, entertain me. Indulge me for a second. How tough is my son exactly? He says, well, there's only one other kid that was able to endure this pain and remain fuss-free. And I said, well, what's the deal, Doc? Like, was this kid just another blonde white boy from Westchester County? He goes, no. He was a black kid from Brooklyn. Sold. Tough guy credentials made official by the ER doc right then and there. My son, Archo USA, real name Arthur Morrison Kornbluth, born tough. Now, we can make someone tougher, but I'm also not raising a gangbanger over here. So I don't really need to hear Savage about Russian special forces and them getting in bare-fisted fights where they punch each other in the nose, whoop-de-freaking-do, and no one could cut it, they're out, okay? Not really concerned with, like, your Russian heritage. I don't really care whatsoever, all right? This is my point. You could raise your kids under an attachment parenting model and still raise them to be tough and resilient. Because when you get knocked off the horse, you get right back on. Or as I told my daughter one time, when I push her on the swing and she flies right off, and that's because Daddy pushed her a little bit too hard, I say, Matilda, what do you do when you get knocked off the swing? When Daddy pushes you a little too hard? And she says, call child services? So, obviously that's a joke. But my daughter is that funny and she could come up with that. So controlling your kids with comedy can make our kids great again. Using humor to lighten situations obviously helps. It also helps if you're actually funny. So if the father doesn't possess the actual funny, the chances of you controlling your kids with comedy lessen dramatically. But we'll get to that down the road. So I like to believe everyone has some element of funny if they're just a fan of dry, sarcastic humor alone. Or busting balls. As long as it doesn't have any, like, mean-spirited malice behind it. Like growing up, your father just calling you a waste of height. Which my father did to me. Now, in retrospect, he did have a strong argument, knowing that, at least after the fact he did. Because after high school, it would have been completely kosher and very cool, and actually more funny for him to call me a waste of height, knowing that the highlight of my basketball career, my senior in high school while playing varsity basketball, was scoring a whopping 10 points against an all-Japanese team. That was a private school located in the suburban Snugglesoft confines of Westchester County. And anyone could have scored 10 points against this team. Every time I drove to the hoop, whoever my defender was, he would run away scared from me. Like he was a movie extra in a Godzilla film. So, attachment parenting is a beautiful thing. And my new son, Samuel, 1,000% happy with that kid. And I'd like to keep it that way. So, I wanted to, originally, this episode was going to be about my homeschooling sick day for my daughter. And we were going over, she's no problem articulating herself, but she struggles with her T's. So, this is us going over 4th grade words that could increase your vocabulary. Obviously, I didn't come up with this title, and I'm butchering right now. But we had a nice give and take. And what I learned here, folks, is that the beauty of becoming a parent is that you're able to basically do the Billy Madison thing. We're able to go through school again, but you're teaching your kid through more mature, live-through lens of life. So you don't feel like such a jerk-off anymore. For example, so let's go over some S's, okay? Here we go. Dada. What does stern mean? It means serious, strict, and humorless, like Michelle Obama. Dancing Commando and Ellen doesn't count. Dada. What does stagger mean? To walk unsteady, like Homer, back from Oz. Or Bill Walton, after back-to-back dead shows at the Shoreline Amphitheater. Dada. What does soothe mean? To make less painful, like. Matilda. What does soothe mean? To make less painful, like the use of lawsuits, protests, and hashtag campaigns for feel-good fake wins in attempt to stop Trump trains bound for glory. Dada. What does solemn mean? It means speaking or writing in a real stiff, stern tone, devoid of any comedic flair whatsoever. But corporate America isn't your personal open mic either. And trust me, Daddy will know from personal experience. Does sickly mean always sick, Dada? It also means easily broken, like baby boomers' egos for buying into a Russian collusion cause for impeachment tale that has less legs than Lieutenant Dan. So, Dada, what does sleek mean? Extra shiny, like your complexion after a bubble, or Kurt Russell's curls after Goldie rubs her fingers through them with excessive foaming cream. So yesterday, still having a field day with Cortana, my voice-powered assistant. I use that. It's hooked up to my speaker and my Spotify. Beautiful thing. Great time we live in. I make a request. True story. I make a request for my voice-powered assistant, Cortana. I said, play Hey Jude by Wilson Pickett. And my daughter responds, why would you say Hey Jew to Cortana? Because on Milo's alter ego, when he's had too many Jaegers on an empty stomach. Great joke, all right, huh? In the house. Alt-right. I don't even know if the alt-right exists. Although I will say this, that the SWAT sticker, dumbest symbol of all time, okay? This is what the SWAT sticker looks like, all right? What else can you expect from a failed art student like Hitler? The SWAT sticker looks like a couple of gay stick figures doing a 69 on a seesaw on crystal meth. Yes. I am full of one-liners like this. Michael Savage, good luck competing. So I asked my daughter, so we're still having fun with the Cortana, and I said, Matilda, does Abbey Road by the Beatles, does Abbey Road sound excessively whiny? She says, what's whiny, Dada? And I said, Baba cooking for more than two at home for a change? My daughter says, yeah, totally whiny, Dada. Sounds like Pet Sounds, but more annoying, English, pipsqueak whiny, if you catch my drift. I certainly do. Hey, Cortana, play Hey Jude by Wilson Pickett. And my daughter says in disgust, why would you yell at Cortana, Hey Jew? And I said, because she's stealing musical royalties away from Kanye West in any Spike Lee film ever made. Dada, what does shudder mean? To shiver in fear. What are you afraid of, Dada? Not finding a job again? Actually, regressing back to a 36 waist if you really need to know. Dada, what does sensitive mean? Quick to have your feelings hurt, knowing Kanye knows best. Kanye just tweeted, to be great is to be misunderstood. So all of Chelsea Handler's fans on Twitter see her for the hysterical hack she's become. Nothing more, nothing less. Dada, what does sensitive mean? Daddy threatening to knock out a guy from high school who insists I'm not funny 3 kids later at 41 years of age. Dada, what does sensitive mean? A mother who claims you abandoned her years ago since you got married to her superior replacement. If that isn't a relatable joke for all you doodle dads out there, I don't know what is. Dada, what's satisfactory? What's satisfactory? Sweet potato waffle fries, turkey bacon, and a cold Pabst Blue Ribbon, otherwise known as the hipster beer of choice. Dada, what does satisfactory mean exactly? Satisfactory means good enough? Like polygamy? So what I realized here, folks, Trump has banged out like 35,000 tweets plus versus my 30,000 and change. New Yorkers from Queens, like myself, never run out of things to say and have zero problems. Ugh. Damn it! My point here, folks, New Yorkers from Queens never run out of things to say and have zero problems expressing themselves. That's for damn sure. So, on an end note, last night, I'm tucking my kids in their room, which they love. They're not jumping into our bedroom 24/7 like they did in the past. Attachment parenting does work. And I said, hey, Arthur, I made your bed for you. And my son says, without missing a beat, he's 4 years old, he says, you made an awful job. I think that's what he said. But the point being is, my son, there's that great Beach Boys song called In My Room, and it's their room now. You know, my son, he'll give me unsolicited hugs out of the blue. He'll jump on top of me, especially when I play with his younger brother, and say, I love you. And it's a beautiful thing. And I think attachment parenting has played a huge factor in that. However, when I tuck him in some nights, I'll go in for the hug, be like, Daddy, get out of my room. But he says it in a playful, mature, I'm developing my own sense of independence sort of way. So, Archo, what the hell is attachment parenting, dude? Episode. This one is dedicated to you. Because I lost it last night when I said, hey, Arthur, do you like how I made your bed? And you said, you made it awful. That's the exact line. So, I love you, kiddo. You're the best. You're growing stronger every day. Yeah, yeah. That also applies to you, Matilda and Samuel. I love you all. You inspired this podcast. We'd love to become the face, the American face for attachment parenting down the line. Wouldn't mind collecting some mucho dinero paychecks on the corporate speaking circuit. But we're not going to get too ahead of ourselves right now. So thank you for listening. Appreciate all your support. Do It All Dad here podcast. Dad-friendly entertainment for you and me. Controlling your kids with comedy can make our kids great again. Talk to you soon.